But speaking of American and UK, American and Canadian sort of overlapping propaganda programs, this has been going around too. I want to get your take on this, Darren. This is just so everyone knows exactly when the news turned into mercenaries. So it says here, this is CBC is fake news, speaks volumes. In 1954, there was a statute in the Criminal Code of Canada that said it was illegal for media to lie to the public. In 2019, Bill C-39 was voted on and passed in Parliament to remove it. Still trust the media? Still trust the government? Do you think this is accurate, this statement?
I don't know. Do you have backup?
I went and checked with Grok on it, and I did. Daniel Nagace discussed and warned people about this. Yeah. So I'm not going to go through all the comments, just people, railing against it, but it's not quite like this, because I was thinking, what does that remind you of if it was true?
Smith months.
Yeah, exactly. So I was asking Grok about it a little bit, and it basically, what happened was that, here, let me read this paragraph, and I want to get you to help me understand this. The claim that the Criminal Code statute in 54 made it illegal for media to lie to the public, and that this was repealed by Bill C-39 in 2019. It refers to Section 181 of the Criminal Code and its subsequent repeal. Let's break it down, it says here. So the Criminal Code as it existed in 1954, consolidation and earlier dating back to the 19th century, stated, so this is what it was like in the 50s. Everyone who willfully publishes a statement, tale, or news that he knows is false. So everyone who willfully publishes a statement that tale or news that he knows is false and that causes or is likely to cause injury or mischief to a public interest is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. So that sounds pretty hardcore, right? So you wouldn't be able to do that in the media, right? So this provision, often referred to as the false news law, originated from English common law and was intended to prevent the spread of deliberately false information that could harm the public interest. It was not specifically aimed at the media, but applied broadly to anyone who knowingly published false statements. The law was rarely used, but it remained in the criminal code for decades. Then, in 92, the Supreme Court of Canada in R versus Zundel struck down Section 181 as unconstitutional. Do you know why? Can you guess why this would have been a case?
Freedom of expression.
Yeah, kind of.
Because that would be
can you let's just get a little more conspiratorial here. What would have triggered this case? Like, what on earth in Canada would somebody have said?
No.
Okay, let's see what happens here. The case involved Ernst Zundel, who was prosecuted for publishing Holocaust denial materials. Ding, ding, ding. Good one.
So, I mean, my take is that in a free society, the government shouldn't have any say over what is and what it isn't true and what can be published. Now, I'm not going to defend the Canadian mainstream media in that, but that law could be flipped around right on us if it still existed and say that what we're doing is fake news and now we're going to jail. And I would also argue that this kind of, wouldn't have outright legalized Holocaust denial in Canada. It definitely has muddied the waters to the point where I don't think you'd be charged for just saying that you didn't think it happened anymore. I think you could only be charged now if you used that argument to ferment hatred against people. But I think you could legally say it didn't happen.
The court ruled
just yet, but
yeah, the court ruled that the provision violated Section 2B of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, freedom of expression, because it was overly broad and lacked a clear, pressing, and substantial purpose. The court noted that even deliberate lies could have a social value in fostering debate, and the vague wording of injury or mischief to a public interest made the law prone to abuse. However, the ruling did not remove Section 181 from the Criminal Code. It simply rendered it unenforceable as only Parliament can amend or repeal statutes. So they said basically this is unenforceable, but it was all triggered by somebody that was trying to deny Holocaust. So now they're saying that he's allowed to deny the Holocaust and that this is rendered unenforceable.
Yes.
Isn't it weird that that would be the thing that they rendered this unenforceable? So, and then this is the thing that's going around the internet, which is wrong. Bill C-39 and the repeal of this Section 181. It was introduced in 2017 by Jody Wilson-Raybould. It aimed to remove provisions from the criminal code that have been ruled unconstitutional by the court or appellate courts. So among these, it was Section 181. But the repeal of it was part of a broader effort to update the criminal code. Let me see here, skipping through. The removal of this section was not controversial in itself, as it had been unenforceable since 92. It was seen as a housekeeping measure. So, but I don't think it passed. It was introduced in
but not public knowledge.
That's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, we didn't know that. We thought it was, we were under the assumption that that was still legal in Canada.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Well, it might be from later on. It might be since 92 there was later hate speech laws that now make it like that. Or maybe what you're saying is true, that it goes back that far to the 90s when we thought it was not allowed. So anyways, Bill 39 was introduced in the 42nd Parliament first session, but it did not progress beyond the first reading due to procedural delays and the dissolution of Parliament in 2019. However, the repeal of Section 181 was later incorporated into Bill 75, C-75, an act to amend the criminal code, the Youth Criminal Justice Act, and other acts to make consequential amendments to other acts, which received royal assent on June 21st, 2019. So that included a broader set of criminal code reforms, and the appeal section was one of them.
This says that Bill C-39 did pass, and it was granted royal assent on June 21st, 2018, and an act to amend the criminal code, Bill C-39.
Including those to remove. Bill was seen as housekeeping. It said it didn't pass beyond the first reading, though. That's what this one says.
This says it became law and got royal assent. Let's read it. I have the bill here.
Okay.
It's short enough to read, I think. So, Charter Statement Bill C-39, an act to amend the criminal code, unconstitutional provisions, and make consequential amendments to other acts. The Minister of Justice prepares a charter statement to help inform public and parliamentary debate on government bill. Blah, 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 charter consideration. So here's what they took out. Promoting the rule of law by repealing or amending invalid criminal code provisions. Bill C-39 would repeal or amend several criminal code provisions that the Supreme Court of Canada has previously found to be of no force or effect because of inconsistency with the charter. Loitering, so you can loiter. People can't stop you from loitering unless it's private property. Spreading
that's super interesting, right? Or what's happening in the cities. I mean, they had to get rid of that, right?
Well, it says here that it was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1994.
Okay.
Spreading false news, which is Section 181, which was found unconstitutional in the case you mentioned in 1992. Unlawful object murder, whatever that is. What do you think that is?
I don't understand it. I don't know.
Like using a sword or something?
I guess, yeah.
Part of which was found unconstitutional in 90. Murder in commission of offenses, found unconstitutional in the same case in 1990. Impaired driving, presumption of accuracy of breath or blood samples were found unconstitutional in 2012. Abortion, found unconstitutional in 88. Credit for which would be the banning of abortion, I'm assuming. I don't know. Credit for pre-sentence custody and sentencing, found unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know for sure, but my thing here says yes. Bottom line is yes, Bill C-39 passed and is now law.
Interesting. Well, we have maybe Grok is hallucinating that. That's a good comparison between your assistant and Grok.
So just ask it straight up. Ask Grok if it got, what about getting royal assent on June 21st, 2018? Because mine could be retarded too.
2018, 2019.
2018.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things I was going back and forth about was it's like, you weren't allowed to libel somebody, but it seems like there was a gap left where the media could lie and propagandize, and it sort of slipped. To me, there was like almost like a loophole in a way. Clarifying Bill. See, in the previous discussion, I noted that was repealed false news, but it did not progress. Instead, the repeal of 181 was ultimately enacted through Bill 75. The claim is the date you mentioned does not align with Bill C-39 or the repeal of Section 181. It's possible that ex post or related claims misstated the year or confused Bill C-39 with another. To address your question, let's examine what legislation received royal assent on June 21st, 2018. Bill C-59. Bill C-59. Bill C-66, C-74. The date June 21, 2018 likely came up in the ex post or related discussions due to a conflation of timelines or bills. Here's how this ties to your concerns about media deception and the Smith-Munt Act comparison. And then it gets into media subsidies, perceived deception, gaps in addressing disinformation, which is what I was saying. Like, just because the media doesn't libel somebody or cause this other harm doesn't mean they can't just legally manipulate the public.
I don't know. Mine keeps hammering it down.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So was it what does Grok say? Was it part of
It says,
C-75?
yeah, it says on that day that you mentioned, it was Bill C-59, 66, and 74.
Here we go. Bill C-39 was initially introduced to repeal unconstitutional provisions, including blah, blah, blah. These same amendments were absorbed into Bill C-75 when C-75 passed and received royal assent on June 21st, 2019. Rather than passing multiple standalone bills, the government bundled them for efficiency into C-75.
For deception.
Well,
I just don't trust anything they're doing. I mean,
is much bigger, it looks like. I'm just trying to see if I can find it's 34 pages long. Oh man. As well be C-75. The bill amends many aspects of criminal law, reclassify a number of criminal offenses, restrict the availability of preliminary inquiries to adults to a maximum term of imprisonment of 14 years, better protect victims of intimate partner violence, modernize bail practices, give judges and police greater discretion regarding administration of justice offenses, strengthen the case management powers of justice, reform the jury selection process. Oh man! So here's where it brought as well. Bill C-75 reintroduces legislative amendments from the following bills: C-28, C-38, and C-39.
okay.
C-75, C-46, C-51, and C-59. Man. Reclassification of indictable offenses, punishment of rioter, neglect by police officer, offenses in relation to military forces, which is interesting timing,
Right.
possession of a forged passport. Man, this is a long list. It's probably mostly nothing burger though. Other than that 181, I'm sure is the in order to streamline the execution process, Bill C-75 provides the following warrants and orders may be executed anywhere in Canada without the need to have them endorsed: wiretap authorizations, search warrants, restraint orders, general warrants, assistant orders, DNA warrants, warrants for bodily impressions, tracking device warrants, transmission data recorder warrants, and drug search warrants. The The peace officer who executes the warrants must be empowered to act in the place where the warrant is executed. Traditionally, territorial jurisdiction is an important aspect of criminal law in Canada. Generally, the code requires warrants that are to be executed in another province to be endorsed by a judge in another province by making an endorsement on it. So that's seems like they can get warrants easier. Whoa. In response to the appeal court decisions, Bill C-75 repeals or amends the following provisions of the code. Section 159, anal intercourse. So
Oh,
anal
yeah.
is legal again.
Yeah, there was something in there about that too.
It was found unconstitutional in 95. Section 179, vagrancy. So there's the spreading false news again. And the rest, I think, it's pretty okay. That's the weird part of it, I would say.
All right. Let me read just the final summary, the similarities and differences with Canada and the Smith-Munt, just to sort of summarize this this here. So it says similarities and differences with Canada. This is good. Similarities: both the repeal of Section 181 and the Smith-Munt Modernization Act are seen as loosening restrictions on information dissemination, fueling public fears of unchecked propaganda. In both cases, the legal changes were technical. Section 181 was already unenforceable. Smith-Munt materials were already accessible online, but became symbolic of broader concerns about media and government collusion. The difference is Section 81 was a criminal law targeting individuals, not specifically media or government, while Smith-Munt directly addressed government-funded propaganda. Canada's CBC is a public broadcaster with domestic focus, unlike Voice of America's foreign orientation. The U.S. has no direct equivalent to the CBC's funding model, though NPR faces similar criticisms.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
There you go.